Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the video productions by the Artelino company. My name is Dieter and I'm the manager and owner of the Artelino company, and we sell Japanese prints in weekly online auctions. Today's video is more of a little bit about history, but also a little bit about ukiyo-e. I want to talk about Saigo Takamori, a historic figure from the 19th century, Japan's history. He became known to a wide audience through the 2003 film The Last Samurai, starring Tom Cruise. But who was the historic figure Saigo Takamori? And what is the connection to ukiyo-e Japanese prints? Who was Saigo Takamori? He was born to a low-ranking samurai family, and he was an imposing figure, 180 centimeters tall, that's nearly 6 feet. At that time, for a Japanese in the 19th century, he was a giant, yeah. And he had a neck, well, you can see that, resembling more that of a bear. And Saigo Takamori became the leader of a rebellion of samurai in 1877 against the Meiji government. What was the samurai class? My friends, you see here a typical samurai. Yeah, the samurai usually wore two swords, a long sword and a short one called katana. Well, this guy even has 3 swords. The samurai class was established by Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Toyotomi Hideyoshi was one of the 3 unifiers and pacifiers of Japan in the 16th century. And he established the samurai as a permanent army that was forced to live permanently in castles. Before, the warriors were farmers and only called to duty during times of war. Toyotomi Hideyoshi also established a hereditary class system with the samurai on top. And you could not leave this class system. When you were born as a farmer, you remained a farmer your whole life, and the same with samurai. The samurai had very far-reaching privileges. Well, first one was the right to carry weapons, and they lived on rice taxations, which had been introduced by Toyotomi Hideyoshi. And samurai also had immunity from certain laws. Well, for instance, well, crazy, yeah? If a commoner insulted a samurai, the samurai had the right to kill him under certain circumstances. During the Edo period, that was so roughly from 1600 to exactly 1866, so more than 250 years, but there was peace. There was no war, so these samurai, they basically had nothing to do. They were a class of idle men, estimated by historians at roughly 8% of the Japanese population. In 1868, the rule of the Tokugawa family, also called the Shoguns, was replaced by the restoration of the emperor. You see him here on an old photograph when he was still very young. Emperor Meiji, and this was the beginning of the Meiji era. There was a last attempt of the proponents of the old order of the shoguns, the Tokugawa family, in the Battle of Ueno, today a park in Tokyo, by the way. And this battle took place on May 15th, 1868, and the imperial forces of the new order were led by Saigo Takamori, the last samurai. And in this battle, the proponents of the old order were completely crushed. 2,000 supporters of the old shogun rule by the new order of the imperial forces. The Meiji period was marked by really radical reforms. Japan was transformed from a medieval society to a modern state after Western patterns. And Saigo Takamori played a major role in this new Meiji government. In 1871, again, sweeping reforms were introduced. By the way, you see here Saigo Takamori on a note, ukiyo-e. Well, and these reforms abolished samurai privileges completely. The samurai were dismantled. Also, the land property of these daimyo, well, once powerful kind of dukes under the old shogun order, that land was confiscated and these daimyos now received a state pension. However, now many samurai families fell into poverty, and it was sometimes so bad that samurai wives were forced to sell themselves to brothels. 1 year later, in 1872, a modern army of conscripts was created. And that was now the time when Saigo Takamori left the government. Well, basically for two reasons. First of all, he was now in conflict with his own samurai roots and the policy of this Meiji government. And the second one, well, he was in favor of attacking South Korea, but the rest of the Meiji government was opposed. He said, "We are not yet powerful enough to do that." 1877 was the year of the Satsuma Rebellion, also called the Seinen War. It was the attempt of these frustrated samurai to topple the Meiji government and to stop westernization and reforms. By the way, the samurai were equipped with guns and cannons, not like in the film. They had seized these guns and cannons in the early days of the rebellion by attacking military depots of the central Meiji government. And the leader of the rebellion, that was Saigo Takamori. This rebellion of the samurai, by the way, was very popular among the Japanese population. And in the beginning, the samurai rebels, they had some success. They marched towards Tokyo, and on the way to Tokyo, there was a castle, Kumamoto Castle. And the samurai thought, well, they could take this castle, which was defended by conscripts of this modern Meiji new army. They could get that within 1 or 2 days, but these conscripts were much better than they had expected, and so they were forced to siege Kumamoto Castle, and that lasted for 4 weeks. And in the meantime, the central Meiji government had enough time to organize the defense, to send reinforcements to the south, and they got the upper hand. The Meiji government had one advantage. There were newly built railways and modern ships and telegraph lines. And like this, they could get reinforcements fast into the south and communicate well via these telegraph lines, which the rebels did not have. So, and also the weaponry of the new Meiji army was superior to that of the samurai. Well, to give you one example, the samurai rebels had old-fashioned Russian matchlock guns with 1 shot per minute, while the imperial army had modern rifles with 6 rounds per minute. So the samurai rebels were forced to retreat back to the south. By the way, this is an ukiyo-e triptych, dramatic scenes from the siege of Kumamoto castles. So finally, the rebels were encircled in the hills of Shiroyama in Kyushu. And General Yamagata Aritomo, the commander of the imperial troops, requested Saigo Takamori to surrender to spare further bloodshed. But no response from the rebels. And in the morning of September 24, 1877, the shelling of the hills of Shiroyama began with artillery from land cannons and several imperial ships. Saigo Takamori committed seppuku, the samurai suicide, and this was the end of the samurai class. And now, ladies and gentlemen, now, my friends, let's switch from a kind of a history video, well, to Japanese prints, back to Japanese prints, also called ukiyo-e. Well, what's the connection with ukiyo-e? Well, actually, ukiyo-e played a major role in the Satsuma Rebellion. Why? Yeah, because most Japanese were illiterate. They could not read and write. And photography was still in its very early stage. And like this, traditional ukiyo-e was the key medium to convey these events of the Satsuma Rebellion. Ukiyo-e, like this, became a lucrative business in this genre of showing the events of the Satsuma Rebellion, however, only for a short time. Nevertheless, all major ukiyo-e artists contributed to this new genre of displaying the events of the Satsuma Rebellion. Well, Yoshitoshi, Konichika, Yoshitora, and for Yoshitoshi, it even became a kind of a financial turning point. And let me take a short look at this example there. It's by Chikanobu. It's interesting. It shows women fighting against the imperial troops. There you see imperial troops in uniforms and 1, 2, 3 women. And interesting, this woman, she has a long lance that's called naginata in Japanese, and it was the typical weapon for samurai women, in which they were also trained to defend themselves. From time to time, we have such ukiyo-e like this one in our weekly online auctions. So please enjoy them, but please also don't forget to bid on them, my friends, because I have to confess, that's the only reason why I produce these videos, to encourage you to bid in our auctions. I hope you got the message. Yeah, you got it. Wonderful. Okay, thank you, and have a good week. Goodbye.